Okay. Welcome to the Really Useful Podcast. I'm Christian Cawley and this is Ben Stegner. We're both writers at makeuseof.com. We also happen to be editors, but that's by the by. And we're here to talk to you about ways in which you can make the technology you're using more usable, more useful, and stop it sort of taking over your life. Be more productive rather than waste time checking settings and all that kind of nonsense. Right. This week's Really Useful Podcast is we're going to look at how to blur backgrounds on Skype, how to declutter Twitter the Marie Kondo way. So if you've got loads of people that you follow on Twitter and have realised that maybe that's not such a good idea, then we'll show you how to sort that out. We're going to have a chat about awesome websites that offer free college courses online. We're also going to be looking at some dark web. What is it, and whether or not the Experian dark web scan is something that you should be using if you're concerned about where your accounts are being traded, because that does happen. That's how one of the ways you get a lot of spam emails is via that kind of trading. And which portable game console is the best option to buy? It's a lot to get through. We're going to be brave and go for it straight away. The blurring the background on Skype thing. Now, if you're watching the video version of this on YouTube, and you can because we're there on YouTube, hello to our many thousands of subscribers. Thank you for subscribing to us. You will see that our backgrounds are both blurred.
They are. And looks a little weird.
It does. It does. I mean, I think yours looks quite nice.
Looking at your thumbnail in the corner, the full screen version looks a little fuzzy, but the corner one looks like really nice, probably because it's like a quarter of the size.
Sure. Yeah. Yours is probably the same, I imagine.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But what we have both noticed is it kind of looks like we're both sat in front of a green screen. And then a background has been put in of a. I mean, no one would choose this background, obviously, but. I mean, how do you feel about it? I mean, is this something do you think that you'll use going forward?
Podcast, so I might. I see that it has use, if you're hopping on a business call and you don't want to have to tidy your background, or that there's something on a board behind you that you don't want people to look at. I think it's an easy way to kind of reduce any clutter in the back and keep the focus on you. But it seems pretty nice. It seems like it doesn't like headphones. So if they tweak anything, it seems like the headphones kind of blur into the background. But
yeah, I've noticed that on yours. Yeah,
for a one-click toggle, I don't think it's too bad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is surprisingly easy to do. Basically, when you're on a video call or before you start the video call in Skype, you open the settings menu, go to the audio video view, and you'll see beneath your preview, it says blur my background, and just click the switch, and that blurs your background.
Yep, you can see it kind of real time in the preview in the corner. It'll show you it, so you can see how it looks quickly, and then so that's what it looks like without. I'll do mine too. Yeah, so I have mine on, and then I take it off, put it back on. I mean, it looks, like I said, it looks better in the preview, but yeah, it's worth a try if you don't want to have to worry about buying a.
Absolutely. So try that. It's there to use. I don't know whether it's going to improve Skype for you immeasurably, but it's a useful little feature to have. Now what we're going to move on to next. We're going to have a look at the Twitter thing.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Taking out the trash on Twitter.
There's a lot of it about. Marie Kondo's obviously become quite popular over the past couple of years with her kind of what is it? Is it kind of it's kind of a modern take on feng shui, really, isn't it?
I think, yeah. It sounds kind of embarrassing, I guess, because she's been pretty popular, but I honestly have not heard of her before, the last couple of weeks. We were talking about an article idea for it. So yeah, the way I understand it, it's like a decluttering your life, mainly with getting rid of things that don't bring you joy, I guess. So it's negative things, which I guess is kind of the feng shui appeal. So yeah, it seems like you can apply this to your digital life as well. This is one way to do it.
As one of my older relatives always used to say to me when I was younger, tidy desk, tidy mind. I think it's an extension of that, isn't it? So if you're the type of person who follows a lot of people on Twitter, which um, that's a whole other conversation, really, isn't it?
Right. Getting
Uh,
down to how many people you follow.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a good way of doing that. Is like tidying things up using a tool called Tokimeki Unfollow, which uses Marie Kondo's Marie method to pare down the number of people you follow on Twitter to the bare minimum. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, have you tried this? What is the bare minimum, do you think?
I haven't tried it, but I think what's interesting about the tool is that when you use it, it shows you just the people's most recent like three tweets or something, and so you're supposed to decide if you want to stay following them or unfollow them just based on those tweets. I guess the idea is that like a friend that you know in real life who you might follow, or some celebrity or something you followed for years because they're them. I think the idea is that you're going just based off their tweets and not, oh, I really like this person, or oh, this person was in a movie that I enjoyed or whatever. So
Yeah.
bare minimum, I don't know. Twitter, I've talked about Twitter lists before. I don't know if I've talked about it on the show. Twitter lists are a really great way to divide up the people you follow. So you can look at like, sports news or politics news or whatever you want to do, instead of having this giant feed of all the people you follow. But I would say if you can get it between like maybe 100 and 200, that's probably a good middle ground. But it depends because different accounts tweet more or less often. So I don't think there's
Yeah.
any like golden number.
Well, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to check my.
How many followers you have?
Yeah, I'm just going to check my. What? Right, that's the most bizarre message I've ever seen. Um, I'm just going to check my Twitter. I just received a text message that looks like a scam, but it actually doesn't. It actually isn't a scam. Uh, okay, so my Twitter is my personal Twitter. I follow 282 people.
I follow 670, which is
Wow.
probably a lot, but I would say probably a good number of those are probably not active. Like I followed them years ago and they haven't
Yeah.
tweeted anything in years.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? Yeah.
But the other thing too, I wrote an article about this recently. This is kind of a different topic, but Twitter recently changed your timeline options too. So now instead of going with the curated timeline that they've had for a while, where it kind of like picks out the best tweets to show you first, you can turn it back to the chronological timeline where it's just
Yes.
straight
Yes.
order. You see the newest tweets first. So when you turn off that algorithmic timeline, Twitter doesn't show you quite as much like noise. Like it'll say, oh, this person that you follow liked this tweet, or 37 people that you follow this person. Like you don't get that stuff in the chronological timeline. So that can help kind of declutter the amount of noise in your feed as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And just using the mute tool for particular accounts
Sure.
that can help. I do this thing on Twitter, which basically, a lot of people say don't at me when they offer an opinion. What I do is I kind of commando raid a thread with a few choice cuts, and then I mute the conversation. And I put my side forward, put my thoughts forward, and I don't really, unless I go looking for that thread again. That's life's too short to be getting into stupid arguments on
Right.
Twitter, quite frankly. So yeah, there are lots of other ways that you can keep Twitter more productive than leaving it to kind of leaving the weeds to grow, so to
Right.
speak, and cause problems, can't it? So yeah, the KonMari method, the Tokimeki unfollow tool, that's just one of many ways that you can keep Twitter under control and spend
Right.
as little time on it as possible, because you don't want to be wandering around staring at your phone all day because there's actual people in the room or on the bus.
Right. And it's just the less people you follow, the less chance there is that you'll see something that makes you mad and get into the whole rant and argument.
Exactly.
And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, let's move on from that. And now I'm a little bit lost because I know we had a game plan, and my tablet's being a bit slow, so I'm trying to scroll through what was supposed to come on there. Help me, Ben. What's next?
well, we were going to talk about the best sites for free online college courses next.
Ah, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Our Make Use of colleague Megan Ellis has compiled this great list of 8 websites that offer free online courses, very detailed, in depth, like going to college
Right.
standard courses,
Right.
basically. The difference being that you don't pay, or you pay very little, and you don't get full accreditation. But if you pay a lot, then you do get full accreditation.
Sure.
Have you tried any of these?
I have not. I wrote an article a bit ago about Coursera, which did make the list.
Yeah.
I looked at some of those courses. I picked out one of them. I think I picked out ones that were related to like systems learning and IT or like AI. And another one I just picked out ones that sounded cool to me. It was right around the start of the school year. It was like in August. So a lot of the courses were still open and accepting students, and I was impressed with a lot of them. I mean, I didn't take any of them, but just looking at the like trailer, what they were going to cover, it seemed very interesting. And being able to learn from professors at actual
Mm.
universities and colleges is pretty cool. So if I thought about it, but I thought I don't really want to commit to it at that time, but would definitely be something to check out
Okay.
if you want to learn. And like I think the thing is you can learn a lot online, but sometimes depending on how you learn, that structure of like, I have class at this time, or even just I have these 10 lessons to get through instead of just learning from like random videos on YouTube. I think that structure can really help.
Yeah, sure, I agree. I've used is it open? No, I've used Future Learn. I've done a couple of short courses on Future Learn about it will have been writing related, but I can't remember whether it was script writing or and screenplays, or whether it was it more literature based. I can't recall. These days I don't have the time. This is about 2 or 3 years ago, before my youngest daughter was born. So there was a few hours left in the week for that kind of thing. But I have also I've actually studied with the Open University, who are behind Open Learn, and my IT qualifications are from the Open University. So they have good experience in that, because they've been doing distance learning, which is essentially what this is.
Sure, sure.
They've been doing distance learning since the 1960s,
Wow.
when the Open University was launched. So they're kind of experts in that area. But there are, I mean, you've got Harvard Online, you've got Open Learn, as mentioned, Future Learn, you've got Stanford Online, so big universities. You've got Coursera, Carnegie Mellon, Open Learning, MIT, Open Courseware, and EDX. You've basically got establishments and services and topics covering pretty much anything you would want to study, I think.
Yeah, that's what I think what kind of stood out. It's not just like college courses like chemistry or whatever you would learn. It's like how to budget your money or how to be a
Yeah,
better communicator, like life skills too. So there's definitely something no matter what you're looking to learn.
absolutely. So, if you're looking to study, it's the beginning of a new year. Maybe you're thinking you need to do a new course in 2019, and you've looked at your bank account and think, oh, can't afford that. Well, take a look at this selection of 8 websites, and as ever, the show notes that accompany the really useful podcast. They called it the Universal Podcast, which could be something completely different. The show notes that accompany the really useful podcast will provide links to the make use of articles
Sure. With more info.
with more information. Absolutely. Right. I'm going to hand the next one over to you, Ben.
Okay. Talk about the Experian Dark Web Scan. So, I recently wrote an article about the scan that you may have seen. If you're not familiar, first we'll talk about the dark web briefly, and then I'll talk about this scan. So,
Sure.
the dark web essentially is the surface web, or the web that we know how to access, is what's accessible by visiting a website directly, typing it into your browser, or by searching on Google. But there's a whole subset of the internet called the dark web that are websites you can't access by visiting them directly or searching for them on Google. You need to have special software, and you need to go looking for these websites specifically to find them. So the dark web, the name kind of fits because a lot of the stuff on the dark web is shady activity. You get people selling stolen information, selling drugs, that
Yeah.
sort of thing. So a lot of it is not something that most people are going to need to look for or go looking for. So in the past couple of years, You had Experian, which is a credit bureau in the U.S., and other companies offering these dark web scans that offer to scan for your information on the dark web and let you know if they find your social security number or your credit card number or whatever. So at first glance, you might think, this sounds like a good idea. As people might be trading my info on the dark web, and I wouldn't know about it. But as it turns out, for most people, these services are really not worth it because by the nature of the dark web, you're really not able to like scan for transactions or anything like that because the dark web isn't interconnected like the web that we know is. So
Right.
what these services really do is that they scan like dumps of information that are leaked, and they look and say, okay, was your password in here, was your social security number or email, whatever, and then they let you know if they found anything. I actually went through the free scan when I wrote the article, and it didn't find anything about me that I didn't already know was involved in a leak. There was a breach on Patreon a couple years ago, but there's a free website called Have I Been Pwned, which is made by a security researcher named Troy Hunt, that'll do the same thing for free. You type your email address in, and then it'll let you know if your email address was found in any breaches. So if you see a commercial for this scan or you see an ad for it online, it's really not worth paying them money to essentially do what you can do for free. Because they're not going they can't scan the entirety of the dark web. That's just impossible.
Sure. There's a few things about this which I find uncomfortable. There's the whole sort of promotional material is your information on the dark web. Find out with a free dark web triple scan, as if that's sort of like, we're going to scan it 3 times, but they're not. It's a one-time scan for a social security number, email, and phone number.
Right. And the only thing, email and phone number, yeah, you'd rather not have that stuff floating around, but just because somebody has your email address doesn't mean it's not really a security breach.
But I think the other thing that I'm uncomfortable with is, oh, look, you get a free Experian credit report every 30 days. Like, hold on, you're advertising a service that's supposedly about personal privacy, but what you're actually doing is expanding your reach for your credit report service.
Yep. That's how I felt when I signed up for it, because I didn't have, I've had an account to like freeze my credit, but I didn't have an account for this. But when you sign up for the free dark web scan, that's what pops up. You sign in, you create your account, and then it comes up and says, you need to pay to unlock your credit report history and all this. So it feels like they've added a facet onto their existing subscription to be trendy. We can scan the dark web for you because they just want you to pay. It's like $10 a month. And the other thing is too, if they find something like, oh, your social security number was in this breach or whatever, what they're probably going to do is recommend that you freeze your credit, which you can already do. That used to cost money. It was, in some states, it was like $10 to freeze and unfreeze your credit. As of the end of 2018, it's free everywhere now. So if you're worried, that we had that huge Experian breach, or Equifax breach a couple years ago, that put all kinds of people's info out in the wild. So if you're worried about that, you can freeze your credit for free. You have to do it with all 3 agencies: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. It takes a little bit of time because you have to answer those credit questions to prove that you're you. But once you do it, your report's frozen. So even if someone stole your social security number, they'd have to have a unique PIN that you create in order to unfreeze your credit.
So I guess the result of this, the takeaway is you can do this without signing up to Experian, so don't bother.
Essentially, yeah. That you could, to give them the benefit of the doubt, they could be looking for things that, like, Have I Been Pwned, the free search doesn't do. So, it might do something, but my free search didn't come up with anything. So I have no reason to believe that whatever Experian is searching is anything better than what the Have I Been Pwned website can search.
Okay. Full details on that, as mentioned before, you'll find in the show notes on this week's podcast. I should add that we've recently moved. So last week's podcast was updated to iTunes a little later. It is now on iTunes, and expecting this one to go straight through. We've changed our host. We're using the Transistor FM service now for the Really Useful Podcast, which is a great little service which enables us to put things out quickly, and it also, as mentioned, facilitates the YouTube upload. It takes a massive bunch of there's like the publishing side of things for the podcast. It's just automates it, which is absolutely fantastic. So that's worth checking out. If you are a podcaster, do check out Transistor. I'm not being paid to say that. I'm just suggesting it's worth looking at. Okay, right. Is it portable game consoles?
It is. That's our
It
next
is.
topic. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Before you get onto this, I've got a portable game console, which I
Okay.
know you've been dying to see, even though you've forgotten about it since I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago. Which is the Clockwork.
Okay.
Um, the game shell, I beg your pardon, from Clockwork Pie, and it's kind of a retro design. Looks like obviously it looks like a Game Boy.
Sure.
And
Yeah, it does.
it's actually, if you can see the back there, you can see where I've written retro stuff. It's actually modular. So the display and the main board and the battery and the control component and the audio component, which is just in here, can all be removed and upgraded separately.
Oh, okay.
And it comes up, if I just undo this knob here, and this knob here, it will come apart. There's a giveaway I'll make use of for one of these. I'm not sure if it's been won yet. It's probably due to end soon. See, so this will come out, and then I can take each of these components out, you see.
Okay. So what would you like if you swapped like the audio? What would it like? Would it be like just a more powerful audio processor?
I think at the moment there is nothing to upgrade.
Okay.
But yeah, the idea is that if you maybe a better screen comes along, you can just pop that in. It's compatible with Pico 8 as well, so you can, which is a virtual console environment where you can create your own games.
Oh.
And it also runs the majority of retro stuff. It comes with Doom. Do I mean Doom, or do I mean whatever the Doom open source version is called? Yes, I do mean that. But there's a load of stuff. I mean, a load of stuff will run on it. It's a great little thing. 3-hour battery isn't great. Could do with being a bit longer, I think. But overall, it's cool. And there's a giveaway for it on makeuseof.com, which I think is due to end soon. But if it's still open, it's worth checking out. Now, listen. Portable game consoles, you haven't got that on there. I'm guessing you got the Switch on there, but what else is worth getting?
Yeah, so we have the Switch, which obviously you're probably familiar with. It's Nintendo's newest console. It's just about 2 years old. Like, that's so weird. In my mind, the Switch is still like 6 months old. Yeah, so the Switch is the hot console right now because it is a home console and a portable hybrid. So you can dock it and play it on your TV, or you can take it on the go. It's probably the best buy if you're looking for just one portable system. You don't have any. It's probably the best buy now because it's both systems in one, and it has a future ahead of it. A lot of the other systems I'll talk about in a second kind of have their best days behind them, so plenty of good games on them, but there's not a whole lot to look forward to. But aside from the Switch, so the Nintendo 3DS is still an option. The 3DS has been out since 2011. It had a slow start, but after a couple years, it got a ton of good games. It's been really well supported by Nintendo and indie developers and third-party developers. So Nintendo is still making games for the system as of this year, 2019, but they're mostly like ports and remasters of like some Wii games. So the 2DS, the 3DS, the best 3DS is the new 3DS XL. The naming is horrible. So the new systems have the 3D's better and they're a little bit stronger under the hood. So you can get that for $200. The new 2DS XL is very similar, but it doesn't display in 3D. Despite the 3D being kind of like the gimmick of the 3DS, a lot of recent games don't actually use 3D because it was kind of a fad. So that's only $150. So you get a lot of great games. There's remastered Zelda games. There's a couple good Mario games. A ton of RPGs, indie games on the Nintendo eShop. So if you're looking just for maybe something for a kid, the regular 2DS is like $80, and it comes with Mario Kart 7, and it's designed to be a little bit more thrown around for children. So that's a really great option. Again, the future's not too bright for it, but it has such a good library that it's worth a look if you're a Nintendo fan, especially.
And those DS, which I use for the short term, just in order to make them feel a bit more relevant to those of us who don't play Nintendos, they network, don't they?
The 3DS, all the 3DS models have an internet connection. Yeah, so you can play certain games online. You can download new games from the
Yeah.
eShop. Yeah.
And you
The
can play. You can do network play as well within the same network as well, can't you? With them.
Yeah, like local play.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Local. Yeah. Yeah.
if a game supports it, yeah, you can
Yeah.
do. I don't
Yeah.
think you actually have to be. I don't think you have to be on Wi-Fi. It's just like if
No.
two
No. Yeah.
systems are close
Yeah.
enough. Yeah, so it does have that too. The other main option is Sony's PlayStation Vita. Unlike the 3DS, the Vita kind of got off to a bad start and never really got off the ground. And the promise of the Vita was like console quality games on a handheld, and it has some good games, but Sony hasn't really done a whole lot with it. So it's kind of just there. They've announced they're going to discontinue making it and games for it this year. So it'll probably become hard to find soon. But the big thing with the Vita is if you like Japanese games like RPGs and visual novels, there's a ton of them on the Vita. So it's a
Right.
great investment. It's a really good way to play indie games too, because there's a lot of indie games. If you've had PlayStation Plus, you've gotten free games every month for the Vita. So for the price, if you're interested in that type of genre, it's not a bad buy. The biggest problem with the Vita is that the storage memory cards are ridiculously expensive. They're like
Okay.
4 times more than they should be. I wrote in the article a 16 gigabyte memory card for the Vita costs like $40, whereas you can get a 32 gig normal SD card for like $10. So it's like highway robbery for the cards.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you can get past that, it's not a bad system. It's pretty much it's on its way out. But if you like the type of games on it, it's worth a look. And of
Okay.
course, for portable gaming, there's always your phone too. If you have an
Yeah.
Android phone or an iPhone, there's a ton of games on there, and it's the device that's always with you. Now, of course, with that you have the problem that a lot of games on there are loaded with ads and want you to pay every 5 minutes. But there are some good free games. You just have to know where to look.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was playing a lot of games recently for an article on Sega games
Yeah,
on mobile, and a lot of those were there was all like classic 90s and early 2000s Sega games, Crazy Taxi and things like that. And I found that those particular games had the choice of like have a pay version or an ad version, depending on how you want to proceed through the game. You choose to pay or choose the ads. The ads weren't too bad, but I mean, ads are a big problem in mobile gaming because I think there's this. For Android in particular, I think it's not so much a problem with iOS, I don't think, because they had that kind of built in from the start. But with Android, there is this kind of expectation that games are going to be free.
yeah.
I, I,
I've never quite understood that because it seems like developers can't win. Like if they make a free game that has ads or like it's free to start and you pay to unlock more levels, which I think is fine, people get upset. But then when you have a game like Super Mario Run that Nintendo came up with, or any number of games that cost $2, $5, people will say, "Well, I don't want to pay for a game on my phone." So like you can't.
yeah,
I'd rather just pay a couple bucks and not have to worry about ads constantly
yeah.
or getting nickel and dimed at every corner. So it really it seems like the expectation is interesting. People have no problem paying $60 for a game on a console, but $2 for a game on their phone is too much.
Mm,
So it
yeah,
is
yeah.
interesting.
It is a strange thing. I can't really compare it to anything other than maybe 30 odd years ago, there was a line, it wasn't the only line, but it was the most popular line of Commodore 64 games produced in the UK from a software house called Mastertronic. And they all sold for £1.99. And at the same time, there was games, there's the full price games going out at like 11, 12, maybe 20 quid if they're on disc. And it seems like it's the comparative. The only comparison I can see is like mobile games, 2.99p, 2 quid, whatever. Yeah, okay, fair enough. Console game or PC game, well, it's going to be 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 quid, whatever.
Right.
It's the only comparison I can see with it. And maybe it feels that maybe the 8 bits were more disposable in the same way that maybe mobile games are more disposable because then, you can easily wipe your mobile, you can easily lose your mobile phone and then your game data goes. So maybe there's that. Maybe it's a completely different mindset to mobile gaming with a phone than there is
Yeah.
standard game.
I think it might be like, when you buy, like when someone buys a Switch or a 3DS or a PS4 or whatever, like they're buying it to play games. So I
Yeah,
think, I want to play Uncharted, so I'm buying a PS4. I think with a
yeah,
lot of phone games, like it's not I'm buying an iPhone so I can play whatever. Like it's like, oh, there's all these games that are available, so I might as well check one out. So it's not like I bought this device to play these games. It's just they're there, and so if it's free, I'll check it out, but I'm not paying.
Yeah. I mean, I've been playing Red Dead Redemption since Christmas, and it's the only thing I will put on because it wasn't a cheap game.
Right. But I mean, when you think about the value, I mean, when there are some games, like a multiplayer game, you might like, I mean, Overwatch. I bought Overwatch late 2016, and I still play it. So you paid that one price, and it's still fun to play. Or like a big game like Red Dead. But I mean, if I pay $2 for a phone game and it lasts me a couple hours, I mean, it's maybe not as much value for money for the dollar, but I'd rather pay for a decent phone game than have to put up with all the
Sure.
stuff wanting you to pay. So I think it's just the mindset. I think you're right.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna say you've got all the consoles, all the handheld gaming options in front of you. Which one do you pick up?
For I would say, yeah. So if you're not really worried about the cost, so I would say the Switch is the best because it has a great library already, indies and first party Nintendo games. It's portable and you can play it at home. The biggest downside with the Switch is its size isn't too great. So if you want to like keep it in like your purse or like your pocket, it's kind of big for that. So if you're looking for like the console you can play for years to come, I would get the Switch. Otherwise, if you're looking for maximum portability, I'd go with the 3DS or 2DS because it's a little more portable and the battery life is better than the Switch. Vita, I would only go with if you are really interested in the type of games it has, because anyone else is probably not going to be too interested.
Okay.
That would be my summary.
Good choice. Good choice. Okay then. Do you think we've got time for one last one?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay then. Right. Well, Ben seems to spend a lot of time writing about games lately.
I think I have.
And there is a problem with games for PC users in particular, in that it is difficult, or it can be difficult if you never bought. Say you've gone out and bought a game for a loved one. You know they like games. You know nothing about video games, and you've bought them a game, taken it home, and turns out that they can't play it because the hardware specification of the computer isn't suitable. This isn't a problem that you get with games consoles unless you bought it for the completely wrong console. It's not a problem that you get with mobiles unless you bought a game for the wrong mobile platform. That'd be difficult anyway because you're probably just going to buy them a card with credit on them to buy their own game. So that's not going to happen anyway. But with PCs, it is a problem. What is the best way? I mean, this must have happened to you at some point, has it?
I don't, yeah, I would say maybe like in college when I had like a weaker laptop and I would like, there were some games I wanted to try, like even just like a demo, and I would try to play it and then it's not going to work. So it's definitely happened to everyone, I think, at some point. Like you thought your computer was better than it is and then you can't run a game.
I remember when The Sims came out, the very first edition of The Sims back in 1998, 99. Might have been before. And at the time, the computer that I had wasn't an Intel processor. It wasn't an AMD processor. It was a Cyrix processor.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah. Few people have. And it would run The Sims for about 15 minutes before either... and I don't know why, because I wasn't particularly... I didn't have any particular expertise in computers in those days. It didn't run out of hard drive space, so it would have been a graphics, memory, or processor issue, basically. So you'd get 15 minutes out of The Sims, and then it would crash. Not good. Maybe it overheated as well. I can't remember. But basically, the computer wasn't suitable enough to play this. The spec wasn't there for playing The Sims. So 20 years later, how do you get around that, Ben?
Well, I would say first, separately from the article, if you're looking to buy a game or a gift for someone who plays on PC, I would say the safest option is probably just to get like a Steam gift card, because for the vast majority of people, they're going to buy a game on Steam anyway if they buy it downloadable, which is how most PC games are. So I would say if you're looking to get a gift for a PC gamer, a Steam gift card, then they can decide which game to get, and they'll have less of a chance of getting something that's not compatible. But if you're the person who maybe just got a gaming PC or you're new to it and you're not sure what games you can run, the easiest way, there's a website called System Requirements Lab. And they have a tool called Can You Run It, which you'll find if you just Google Can I Run It, or in the article in the notes as we've talked about. Essentially, it's really easy. You type in the game you want to play, and then you click Can You Run It? Excuse me, and then it'll tell you what specs you need to run it, but in case that doesn't mean anything to you, you don't know what kind of RAM or how much video memory you have, you can run a really basic little tool. It'll scan your computer and it'll pick up what kind of hardware you have, and then it'll tell you, here's what you need, here's what you have, you're good or you're not good. So it'll basically tell you line by line, your processor's good enough, your video card's good enough, all that, and it'll tell you where you need to improve if it's not. So that's the easiest way. You can do it yourself manually too, but for most people, that tool is a really easy way to just check any game. And once you scan your computer once with it, you can go on again and just look up a game, and it'll do the same thing. It'll say the game requires this and you need that. So one thing to know too is that most games on PC have a minimum requirement and a recommended requirement. Minimum is typically like what you need to get the game to run. So even if your computer hits the minimum requirements, doesn't necessarily mean the game's going to run smoothly. It might not crash, but it might freeze up or just not run very well. Excuse me. So usually it's better to hit the recommended requirements if you can for the best experience.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay, so that's that. Basically, that's how to make sure the games that you're buying will run on your PC. It's also which is the best portable console that you should choose. Whether you should use Experian's triple dark web scan, the triple scan, and where's the best place to find online courses that will actually change your life. And we've also looked at Skype and its new blurry background, and we looked at another thing as well, which at this moment in time completely escapes my mind.
We talked about decluttering Twitter.
Decluttering
the Marie Kondo method.
Indeed it was. Thank you for joining us, dear listener. Or watching us, Mr. Viewer, Mrs. Viewer. Thanks, Ben, for joining me.
Absolutely, it was fun. I feel like it's been a bit, so it's good to be back on.
Yeah, absolutely. It has been a while. The Really Useful Podcast will be back next week. Anything that you found in the show that you think is of benefit to people that you know who aren't as technically aware as you, then please pass us on, because that's what we're here for. We're here to make technology, gadgets, phones, tablets, consoles, everything easy for everyone without getting bogged down with the technical details. So tools like the one we just discussed about getting games to run for you. Share the podcast with the people that you think it'll benefit, and let us know what you think. Get in touch with us through the post on Make Use Of, where you'll be able to find this, or tweet me. I am at the Gadget Monkey, and Ben, you are
at Stegnersaurus on Twitter, STEGNERSAURUS. I should have a shorter and easier to say. I love my handle. That's what I use for most stuff, but saying it out loud sounds kind of ridiculous, huh?
It's a good handle. It's a good handle. And we'll be back next week. Until then, it's goodbye.
All right. Take care.